Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Menswear Style Podcast. I'm your host, Pete Brooker. Today on the show, I'm talking to Manel Garcia. He is the co-founder of OHNE Project. OHNE have created the most unique barefoot shoe inspired by the 80s and their iconic designs. The Project 080 is a sneaker made from plants that look like regular shoes but have all the benefits of a barefoot shoe. Wide toe box, thin, light and flexible sole, and zero drop. You can find out more about OHNE Project by going to the website ohneproject.com, OHNE project.com. We'll put all the links and notes over on menswearstyle.co.uk. But for now, to tell you all about the brand, the co-founder himself, Manel Garcia.
So we have two kids. One of them is already almost 4 years old, and like 2 years, almost 3 years old. When 3 years ago, when he started walking, you start having all these. You start some research of which kind of shoes kids should wear, right? And they say, yeah, you need a shoe that it's very like the word is respectful in Spanish is respetuoso, which is respectful with the shape and all the biomechanics of the feet of the kids, so that they can develop well the feet as if they walk barefoot, right? So, and with that, I was like, oh, what is this? And we started, me and my partner, looking for information about it, and in the end, we ended up saying, why adults don't wear this footwear? What is it with this footwear? Why it at some point in your development, when you're 10, when you're 11, you start wearing shoes that are not meant to be with our feet? That actually we have a quote saying like, shoes should be designed to fit feet, and not feet should go into shoe shapes. So we had a foot shape or a shoe shape, and shoes should be designed to fit our feet, not the other way around. And so yeah, we started going through, and we saw that there was a problem in our opinion, and I think we are now seeing that people agrees with that sometimes barefoot shoes have a different look, and you can see very quickly that is a barefoot shoe, and that was exactly what could pull us a bit out of the buying this kind of footwear. And so we decided, well, we need to do something about it. I think it's a good moment, because this thing of barefoot shoe or barefoot, it was like a topic kind of like growing more, and we see more people talking about it. I don't know if it's because we also have kids and all the friends have kids, but it's a topic that we hear more and more, and a health perspective too. So we said, okay, we need to design a shoe that has all the properties of a barefoot shoe, but doesn't look like a barefoot shoe, in the sense of trying to make a minimalist shoe the least minimalist in a design.
Interesting. I mean, so I'm glad that you said that in a way, because I've had some barefoot shoes in my time. We've had someone on the podcast also to talk about their brand of barefoot shoe. And I don't want to talk out of school with these guys, but I would say I was surprised going onto your website earlier, looking at your shoes. I was like, oh, it just looks like a regular trainer in terms of design. It looks like a cool retro tennis trainer that I might have seen in the 80s, which is, really is in my wheelhouse. And it was something that with the other barefoot shoes that I had, they just didn't look like the sort of trainer I would naturally go to. I wouldn't be attracted to those sort of trainers naturally. So I was genuinely surprised to see your shoes and see how and that they have all the properties in them still. So how did you achieve that?
Yeah, so I mean, my partner is we were like just doing social media in the last years, but so just as a background, I'm engineer, which I've never worked as an engineer because I didn't like when I finished my studies. My partner is a textile engineer. And then when I finished my studies, I did some shoe design master, but it's not a master, but it was like a 1 year studies. And so it was kind of like, well, yeah, it could be the moment to try to put all together, all what we learn, what we like. I was a sneaker freaker back in the 2010s, collecting all limited edition shoes. So I
Oh,
had
okay, cool.
in my hands a lot of very cool limited collaboration and shoes. I still have some, but I don't use them. It's so stupid in one thinking about it, because I cannot wear them anymore. Like, they are too tight. So yeah, we started designing, and we kind of found the way to make it look less barefoot, in the
Mm.
sense of design, look, and yeah. So we try to find that it's actually a barefoot shoe in a like the main characteristic should be thin and flexible sole, so that you can actually feel the ground, and that your feet can work. This is our shoe. Like, I don't know if it's recording, but so that it's very flexible,
Wow. Okay. So for the listeners,
so that's the idea, that in a barefoot shoe, that you can actually fold it and it almost fits in your hand, you
yeah.
know, so that your feet can work while walking. Because what happens normally is, when you have a very stiff shoe, the shoe doesn't bend, so your ankle don't work, your feet, it's just almost in a cast,
That's
you know.
interesting. Yeah, so
And
Manel,
not only,
just for our
yeah,
listeners,
sorry.
Manel's just got one of his trainers up there, the Honor trainers, and he's basically folding it in half, almost like you could just fold it in half like a tennis ball, almost. You can
Yeah,
completely
or
curl it up.
twist it in
Or,
all
yeah, yeah.
directions, so that your foot is actually
Oh, interesting.
working while you walk, almost like barefoot. Then the second, and I think even most important, is the toe box. It needs to be wide. It
Mm,
needs to be enough space for our toes to splay, so that you can have movement and you are not constricted into a shape, because that's what mostly causes bunions, hammer toes, and all these problems that we have nowadays.
mm.
So the genetics are a very little part of what we are told about these bunions. It's more like a physics thing. If you put your feet in a small shoe,
Mm.
it your feet just
Oh, come here.
gets
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the shape. And that's why women has more problem, because you, on top of that, put gravity, you put a heel, so it goes
Mm.
even with more strength into the toe box, narrow toe box. Yeah, so this is
Interesting.
actually, yeah, thin flexible sole,
Mm.
toe box, and then it needs to be completely flat. It needs to be what we call zero drop, so that the height from the heel to the toes is the same one. So
Right.
you don't have a heel, because this also causes a lot of misalignments in your back, in your joints. This cause all problems. Like, you are born barefoot to walk barefoot.
Mm.
Your feet have all the properties to walk barefoot, and the shoe should be just maybe a protection for the cold, for the ground, but it shouldn't interfere in your biomechanics, which is what happens with shoes nowadays.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I actually have a pair of trainers that, because you mentioned about trainers being too tight. I bought a pair of trainers when I was in Florence and I loved them. They were blue suede. They were just a little bit tight when I put them on. And I fell for the classic line in every shoe shop where they go, well, it takes a bit of wear. Once you've had them a wear, you give
Yeah,
them a few miles, then it will mold to your foot. Don't ever believe that. Don't ever believe
yeah,
that, people, because unless it's well, proper leather, and then it might just expand over time, but this is like a suede trainer. It's not going to move, and you're only going to be just slightly a little bit more comfortable. I'm still really uncomfortable in these tight ass trainers, but I refuse to just shelve them or put them on eBay because I thought, right, I've got to wear them to get my money's worth because I'm cheap
yeah.
and I hate waste. So I'm willing to destroy my feet to just get my money's worth out of these trainers. Whereas I feel like if people just get the right trainer to begin with, then they'll be on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, what is the point to buy tight shoes? Like, why do you need to be uncomfortable and actually hurting your feet?
It's that classic salesman line. I mean, I used to do it as well because I worked in a independent fashion shop, and when someone would try a trainer on, and then they go, "Oh, it's a little tight," and then the other one's a bit too big, and then they go back to the tight one. I'm like, "Oh, you'll grow into it. Just a few wears,
And
and
it
it'll."
looks good. It looks good. I don't know why we have this still inside. I would also love to wear tight shoes, even half size smaller, because I looked how my feet look in a smaller shoe,
Mm,
and now it's the opposite.
mm. Well,
And actually, there is, yeah, a lot of things happening after you start wearing barefoot shoes and you go much more barefoot. Your feet actually grows. It's incredible.
so yeah, talk about some of the benefits outside of your feet growing. What does it do to your overall body, your knees, your joints, your posture? Is there any research on
So
that?
I'm not a professional in that, so I don't want to talk and say you should do that. You should do this is the 100% benefits because every person and every case could be different, and there's people indeed for anything they might need some other stuff or but in general orthotics what I believe is more like a medicine. It's just covering something but not actually solving something. Maybe you need some work to increase your strength in your feet, and that's why you had whatever problem you had. Or so there is benefits because it just makes sense.
Right.
And at some things doesn't there is explanation, but for me it makes sense. You're born barefoot, you should walk barefoot, and you shouldn't have problems for walking barefoot.
Mm,
So if you wear a shoe that makes it the most similar to walking barefoot, it will have the most benefits in your whole body. Because what I said, when you're starting um changing the biomechanics of your feet, you are changing many things. From like you're actually changing your base of the body where all your weight goes in on.
mm,
So if you start putting into narrow shoes, so normally what a foot should be, you should wear it's like a tripod. So you have the heel, then your big toe is very important, and when we put it inside in a tight shoe, we are making like it's like a tripod, you know.
mm, mm,
So
mm.
it's like this. So in
Yeah.
the moment you are putting your toes two together, you are changing into a almost 2 points. So
Mm,
your feet is completely unstable, and this changes on your ankles, on your hips, on your knees. And for example, when you put a heel, you are putting much more pressure in your knees, for example, and you are immediately like it's pretty straightforward. If you put a tower like this and you put something in the back, it would fall. So your body needs to compensate all the things that you are putting on your feet. So if you put a heel, and that's why women when they wear heels, it's kind of like it styles more their body because it makes them make this shape,
yeah.
on the back. But this is actually not good because it's your body trying to compensate something so that you don't fall forward.
Mm. It's interesting. I mean, I spoke to my girlfriend about. I'm always fascinated why women wear heels. It's one of these things that kind of boggles me. I used to live in a flat in Essex that was at the end of a high street, and I'd lean out my window at the end of a Saturday night, and I would see the women leave the clubs and the pubs, and as soon as they're kind of at the end of the high street, they're out of view. They take their high heels off, right? Because it's killing them.
Sure.
And I could just call it like clockwork. I'd be like, three, two, one, off come the heels. And they're like, oh, thank fuck. And then they walk home barefoot with their heels in their hand, walking over
Yeah.
glass and stuff. So it's great. But I asked Anastasia, my girlfriend, I said, what, why do you put yourself through this? Is it just to be taller? And she goes, no, it's nothing to do with height. It's to make your legs look thinner. So if you're flat-footed, like if you're not wearing heels, your legs kind of look a little bit, I guess, wider just naturally. So if they're
Where
lofted,
your
then
hips go to the front,
mm,
kind of like aligned, but when you put heels, your hip goes kind of to the back, like putting your butt out, and that's why it styles more the women body in
But
general.
it's all for us. It's all for us guys. Like, if it was just women roaming
It
around
could
the
be.
planet,
It could be.
if women were just roaming around the planet, they wouldn't be wearing high heels. Just because there's
No,
dudes around, they go,
it's something that it was on in the past and needs to kind of like change, I think.
anyway,
It's
slightly
fashion.
no.
It's fashion. It's fashion. It's something. And on top of that, going back to the benefits is your muscles in your feet. So what I said before, when you put into a very rigid sole and in a tight shoe, it's like a cast. It's like when
Mm,
you have a cast on your arm, your muscles completely disappear. So when you take out this cast, you need to work on the muscles so that they gain back again. So for the feet is the same.
mm,
So when you are used to wear regular shoe and then you go to a barefoot shoe, you need a what they call a transition time because of this, because your feet are not used to
Need to adjust, yeah.
walk
Mm,
barefoot, and that's why in Spain, I don't know if in England it has the same, but in summer, then they start always in the news like, be careful with the wearing flip-flops or wearing this because this can be bad for your feet, or don't go so much time barefoot because this go could
mm,
be bad for you. But it's not about this. It's because of course you have been 11 months into shoes that are cast like,
mm,
and then you take them out in summer, and then of course your body is not used to, and some people is like, oh, I have a bit of low back pain because
mm,
I'm walking barefoot. It's like, no, normally it's because you have been wearing heels all the time, then
mm,
of course you have back pain for some time
mm.
until your body actually could readjust to walk how you should, that it's barefoot.
Interesting. So two things on that. I mentioned that women only wear heels for men. Not entirely true. Sorry, let me dial that back a little, or pedal that back. Women wear high heels in the workplace like they did in the 80s and started wearing suits so that they could compete with their contemporaries, right? Their bosses, their corporates. They didn't want to be left out of the workplace, so they brought the heels in for a bit of height and they brought the shoulder pads in just so that they could look a little bit more threatening. Um, Second point, men shouldn't be wearing flip-flops, full stop. Right. I
Yeah.
don't know. I had no idea why guys go out in flip-flops. And let me tell you why, guys. Let me tell you why. If you ever get into a fight, all of your power comes from your feet. If you throw a punch, all of the power, it's not in your biceps. It's all coming from your feet. It's how about you plant your feet in the ground? That's where your strength comes from. And when you swing with your hips, you watch any great boxer, you you'll know that it's not anything to do with his biceps or how strong it is. Look at his footwork. Look how he arcs himself into the punch. Look how he
Sure, sure.
twists
The
the
hips.
back. Yeah. And so when you have flip-flops on, you have zero grip. Your punches will mean crap. So whenever I get into any kind of fights by people by the poolside, I'm like, bring it on. It's fine. I'm going to absolutely waste this guy. And then he heads me and it's game over. Anyway, I digress. But the that does lead me on to something though. When are your trainers or is the barefoot movement being embraced by more people in the sporting industry now, like professional running and even boxing, like we spoke about?
If you think more people is wearing them,
I'm asking you. Is the Vive is the barefoot technology, is it really coming in now into the sports
uh,
industry?
actually, barefoot should, like, it's like there is one brand actually that this is like saying like, you are the technology, your feet is the technology, you don't need all the technology, like your feet, it's so capable to do anything, like your ankles, your arch is just a spring for jumping, for running, your ankle is for like absorption,
Mm,
and we are giving the shoes all our kind of capabilities to do them for us, and this also gives us other problems on the on other parts of our body. But what I'm seeing and what I believe, I see, I see football players and runners and other people actually using barefoot shoes and training barefoot and this, but at the same time wearing the typical footwear for their sport. And I don't think that's wrong, because I believe shoes can be tools. Like, I understand that a shoe, like a carbon fiber sole shoe for running marathons, can gives you is a tool to run faster and to run longer. Is it fair? I don't know, because we are giving the new runners more easy things, like easy tools to run faster and run
Mm,
longer. But we shouldn't put this technology between brackets, this kind of running shoes for a daily use, because they are running shoes. They are for running,
mm,
but it's not good for your body as a diet to be a bodybuilder. It will make you very strong, but it's not the healthiest diet.
mm,
A shoe that it's for a purpose shouldn't be a shoe for a daily. Like, you are not gonna use climbing shoes on a daily basis. They are meant
mm,
for climbing. They put
mm,
you in a very little space so that your foot is like a hook.
mm,
Or I don't know, you can say like any kind of shoe that it's designed for a sport, like cleats for football. I mean, there is now some brands that do barefoot cleats. I don't know if this is actually idea. I mean, at some point, yes, but also if your feet is inside and has too much space, like for changing directions, can be uncomfortable. But I understand the purpose of some shoes. Like, they are for a purpose, but we shouldn't put these shoes into our main wearing time. Like, if you wear the shoes 10 hours a day and you work out 1 hour, it's good. Wear barefoot shoes during the day and work out with your, I don't know, CrossFit shoes that have a special protection here for climbing the rope, or
mm, mm,
your football cleats, but don't put afterwards like another shoe that tightens your feet. So
mm.
I understand shoes can be a tool.
Interesting.
And yeah, so I see people that do sport into like wearing barefoot shoes and training barefoot in some things, but of course when they do their sport, they kind of need to use their special um, shoes as a
Yeah,
tool.
interesting. I want to also talk about your collection because you mentioned it a while back. You got well, you must have limited space now because you said you got a couple of kids. So I imagine
Yeah,
everything is now a fight for real estate inside your place. Have you had to
yeah.
sacrifice some of the collection? Has some of it had to go or in storage?
Actually, I have to say, like, already before the barefoot thing, I sold almost all my collection, because yeah, almost 8 years ago, I became vegan, and so most of my shoes were leather, and
Ah.
I already sold them. And yeah, it was like I was moving around. Like, I moved from three houses different, and every time was like, come on, like 200 pairs of
Oh
shoes,
yeah,
like
yeah.
putting it like three times in the car. And it was a bit like, oh no, I cannot do this. And now I don't know, I still have a lot of shoes for maybe a normal person, but like, that say I have like three pairs now, maybe I have, I don't know, 20 pairs of shoes still.
Pretty good.
Yeah. But I'm
Enough.
not using them. I no, maybe not. No, I'm lying. Maybe 10, 10 or 12. I would need to check. I mean, of course, now I have a lot of samples of our shoes in the house.
Mm,
So, and then
mm.
you can see them here there. And I have also some samples.
Oh yeah.
But actually, the shoes, actually, no, much less. Maybe like 10, 12 pairs of this all collection.
And what about the class? You mentioned also that you were studying, you did a master's in this. Is that a
Yeah,
popular class where you are in Spain, or is it like just four or five of you in a class? Like how does it work?
no, it was a design school, and I was just so interested in sneakers. And at that time, when I was collecting, I was like, oh, I would love to be a sneaker designer. And then I went into design shoes. So I learned about the pattern, how to create the last, how the materials, and how to create a little bit all the all the things on the shoe. And now it's kind of like I kind of relearn it, because it was many years ago, and now I'm more into the. I went to the factory to check, and I'm like learning much more into how to create the shoe, to
And the
make it.
factories in Barcelona?
It's in close to Valencia, in Elche. It's a very big area that is very famous in Spain for footwear.
Interesting. It's good to be right on the doorstep of it. Well, relatively.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. I love, of course, this is a thing that made our price to be a bit higher than what we would love, because of course the manufacturing and everything in Spain is much more expensive than probably in Asia.
Mm.
But yeah, I love this local manufacturing locally, and being able to drive down to the factory and see the production, see the samples, all these things.
Amazing. But we ship to the UK, right? And to the US
Yeah,
worldwide.
yeah,
Great. And
yeah,
I saw on the website, it looked about 140 quid-ish for a pair of trainers.
yeah.
What are we looking for with postage on top of that delivery? Say, like, because we've got obviously we're based in the UK, but we have a lot of US listeners as well.
Yeah, we are trying to make it the best for exporting, because also when you export, it's always more complicated. Is the taxes, and so
Mm.
we are trying to see what could be a good balance for the shipping. Also, we had so many problems already with returns and exchanges, because then the customer send it back to us, then it gets stopped in the customs for us. So
Mm.
this was a bit annoying, not for the shippings, but for the returns was a bit
Mm.
uncomfortable for us. But for the rest, I think people is very happy, and this is the feedback that we are having
Mm.
for the shoes, because yeah, the shoes are like, we kind of took the range of people that was already in the barefoot community and wanted something a bit more, I would say, stylish or different than what
Mm.
we have in the market. But
Mm.
also, there is a lot of people there in the fans. They know what is barefoot, what they know the benefits that could have, but they don't do it because they don't like how they look. And that was
Sure.
a bit our project, like
Yeah.
how we thought about the project.
Well, mission successful, Manel, I would say. It looks great.
Thank you so
I look
much.
forward to seeing some pairs at some point in the future. In the meantime, people can go to the website. That's OHNE project, OHNE project. Yep.com. We'll put all the links in the show notes so people can follow you guys there and on Instagram as well. But in the meantime, great talking to you. Mucho gracias, mi amigo.
De nada. You're welcome.
18 days straight on Duolingo, and I managed to get that in.
That's good.
Okay. And I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Menswear Style podcast. Be sure to head over to menswearstyle.co.uk for more menswear content, and email info@menswearstyle.co.uk if you would like to be a future guest on the show. Finally, please help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next time.